right, mathematicians, welcome to our first day of learning about solving equations. We are going to be using a process called hands-on equations, which hopefully you participated in our discussion and kind of have an idea of some of the features that we will be looking at based on some of the images. So what we're going to do, and the thing that I like about hands-on equations is it's very, very visual. So this is going to be hands-on equations, lesson number 1. All right, so when we look at this, we're going to start with just a picture. And our picture is going to look like this. And this is how we're going to replicate some of the stuff that we've looked at before. When we're looking at this, we're going to make some observations. So what are some things that we notice? Well, we might notice that right now there are 2 triangles on one side. Okay. We might notice that there is an 8 on one side. And hopefully from what we did before, you realize that this is a balance. So we know that these 2 sides are balanced, which also means they're equal. So based on that, what conclusions can we draw about the triangles? So right now, since we know we have 2 triangles on the left side and they're balanced with a weight of 8 on the right side, what would the value of the triangles have to be to balance with the 8? Well, the triangle would have to have a value of 4. And we can check that by putting in 4s for our triangle. So there's 2 triangles, so we do 4 plus 4, and that has to be balanced with 8. And since 4 plus 4 is equal to 8, it checks out, and we know that this is true. So one thing I want us to note is that when we see a triangle, okay, and it's really important that we fill these triangles in, because as you move on later in our lessons and into future years, there is going to be a difference between having a shaded in triangle versus an open triangle. So a triangle will always have the same value within an equation. Meaning, if we go back to that first example, 4 plus 4 isn't the only way that we can get to 8. We could do 5 plus 3, 6 plus 2, 7 plus 1, but because we have 2 triangles, each of these triangles have to be equal values. So the only way that we can get a value of 8 using equal values is by using 4, and that's why we then know that the triangle is equal to 4. So let's look at another example. All right, on this one, we're going to have a triangle and 8, and this time it's going to be balanced with a block worth 7 and a block worth 6. So why don't you pause the video and try some things out and see if you can figure out what's the value of our triangle in this one. All right, so hopefully through some trial and error or some strategies, you hopefully figured out what the value of the triangle is. The way that I thought about this is I thought, okay, so I have this unknown quantity, the triangle, and this 8, and it has to be balanced with a 7 and a 6. So I started to think about how could I manipulate or change those weights on the other side. So like what could I change them for? So one way I looked at it is I could almost borrow 1 from the 6 and give it to the 7, and then that would become like an 8, and then the 6 would become a 5. So it's almost like it's the same weight, but what I did is I took 1 from 6 and gave it to that 7. And now I can look at, what do I have that's the same, what do I have that's different? Well, if both sides have an 8 and then I have a triangle with a 5 on both sides, now I know that my triangle is equal to 5. And once again, we can check that. I can put 5 for my triangle plus the 8 that we know has to balance or to be the same as 7 plus 6. And I'm always going to go back to that original equation. I'm not going to go back to what I changed. 5 plus 8 is 13. 7 plus 6 is 13. So that checks out. All right, if you feel comfortable, you can totally pause the video and stop the video and go and start working on your practice. If you need to, I'm going to go through one more example. All right, on this last example, I'm going to have you try it out on your own again. We're going to have 2 triangles and a 2 balanced with an 8 and a triangle. So go ahead and pause the video and try this one out and see if you can figure out what the triangle is. Here, I kind of looked at it, I was just trying to think about, you can guess and check and use different strategies. You could sit there and try ones and be like 1 plus 1 plus 2 would be 4. Well, that wouldn't be the same as 8. But I start to look at what's the same on both sides. So like here, I have these 2 triangles here and here. So I know that these 2 together have to be equal to that 8 almost. And so then I start looking through, well, what can I do? What would I need here to put with this 2 to get to the 8? Because that's what's kind of different on the 2 sides, and that would be 6. So that's how I came up with the fact that I think the value of the triangle is equal to 6. And then I'm just going to go ahead and check it. So I can do 6 plus 6 plus 2 has to be the same as 8 plus 6. Well, 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 2 is 14. 8 plus 6 is 14, so that checks out. Make sure you like the video if it was helpful to you. Post questions in the comments or reach out to me, and go ahead and work on your practice.